Okay, if we put an STL check on this, it's going to come back with no errors, and that's what we want. We need to do a few things before we start texturing now. The first one is we need to go in here and add some smoothing groups to this so that when we render it, we're not getting this type of thing happening. Remember, we moved a lot of pieces around, and we're going to get some little sharp edges because we kind of beat this up and dinged it up. So what I'm going to do is come back in here and select each side. So everything that's part of that side, that one too. Make sure we got everything, yeah. And we can count these as part of, actually we'll leave those separate. We'll make those a separate smoothing group. Look a little better. Okay, and under Polygon we'll go down here to our smoothing groups. You can see it's already got something applied to it. I'm going to take that off and just apply one to this. Now when we render it, we're getting a much smoother angle there. That's what we want. Now here's a little trick. You can actually hide the polygons by going to Hide Selected, and then you won't apply the same smoothing group to it. This one here is going to be smoothing group. We don't want it to be 4. We'll make this one 3. We just need some extra, some numbers, different groups. This is going to be Hide Selected. Go back over here. This one's going to be smoothing group 4 because it's not butted up to the one on the other side, so we don't have to worry about it smoothing into the other one. And it's a flat plane, so it's not going to matter. So this one's going to be, we take this one off that's on it, and we'll apply 4 to that. And then we'll hide the selected polygons. Make sure we're not getting anything on the inside by accident. And this one is going to be smoothing group 3 for the same reasons. We'll take 6 off and we'll put 3 on. Okay, oops, let's hide those so we don't select them by accident. I just hide them so that I know what's already been done. No other reason really. We'll do the inside. Most of your game engines are going to handle, see, I don't have to worry about grabbing those polygons on the other side. They're going to handle numerous smoothing groups just fine. This one's going to be, let's do 5 and 6 for these. So this will be 5. We'll hide that. This one over here is going to be 5. There's no right or wrong way to really apply these smoothing groups as far as the numbers go. Hide that. Come over here. This one will be 6, and the one on the other side is going to be 6. We can grab them at the same time. And I just shifted something by accident. There we go. Okay, this is going to be 6. So those are all 6. We'll hide those. Okay, and we want the smoothing groups basically to kind of delineate some of these areas as being sharp, like down here. But we don't want to go around the corners with the same smoothing groups. So this piece here, there we go, and these pieces over here, we'll call these, we'll go to 8 and 9, so this will be 8. We'll hide those, and these will be 9. Because we want these boards at the bottom to look like they're separate from the boards on the top up here. That's going to, we'll take that one off, that'll be 8. Okay, we'll hide those. Getting there. Well, everything on the bottom can be the same smoothing group. lost track of where I was at here. Grabbed through that one. Okay. We'll make this one 10, so we'll take that off. Hide those. And same with this top piece here. This one's also going to be 10. Hide those. Okay, and then when we get to these trim pieces, that's what I'm looking around for now, see what we've got left. Pretty much just the chamfered pieces. What I'm going to do with those is I want them all to be the same smoothing group. So this piece here, actually, I think what I'm going to do is make these a separate smoothing group here. I'm going to make those the same smoothing group, so those can be 11. We'll hide those. These guys here. Looking around. Those can be 12. And we'll hide those. The booleans can be all one smoothing group. They can be 13. Hide those. And we just have these pieces down here on the bottom. And I think just because I'm not quite sure what's what down here, I think we'll just grab everything and make it 14. And then we'll deselect these guys going across this way. We want those to be a separate smoothing group so it doesn't smooth on the corners. We'll hide those, and then these guys can be 15. Okay, and now once we have everything hidden, you can unhide all. There's our box. Let's give that a render and see what we have to work with. We're probably going to have to blend a few of these. You can see we've got a few issues here, like down here. But otherwise, it's not bad. I bet we're going to have an issue right there, yep. Okay, and usually, wherever you've got rendering issues, it's a matter of just going back in it's trying to render around a corner, basically, and take off the smoothing group. You could take off this smoothing group completely. You can see I got rid of my problem there. Same on this side. You can just take off the smoothing group completely or apply a different smoothing group. I'm just going to take that off completely. And do we have a problem on this side? This side looks pretty good. This side over here I think had a issue. Right up in here. You can adjust these, the smoothing groups, but I really don't like getting into them too much when I'm modeling. I'm going to take that 4 off. Let's render that guy, make sure he's okay. And let's apply just another smoothing group like 23. We've still got a little problem here. I'm going to zoom into that area, see what the problem is. I think our problem is either in the, it could be under here too. Right there is the problem I'm trying to solve with my smoothing groups. Okay, so it's not that one. That can go back on. It's this guy here. Oh, I can see what the problem is going to be. My problem is right in here. See how that's bending in right there? It's just bad modeling. That is my problem. See how that's going to bend in right there? That's what's causing my smoothing group issue. I have to kind of bend that back out. Just got tweaked somewhere along the way. There we go. Should solve my smoothing group, yeah. And this guy over here has probably got the same problem. Yeah, he does. It's this vertex right there. We'll move him out. That should solve that problem. Okay. There we go. So that solves those. And we'll give this guy the once over here. Let's just make sure everything looks pretty decent. We're looking for any sort of kind of black, smudgy areas. That usually tells us there's a problem with the smoothing group. It's kind of like that. We don't really want that. And that's the same problem we had on the other side. I think it's right here. This guy is our problem, I'll bet you. Yeah, see how that one comes out a little bit too far? Just kind of push him back in. Make it match up with the others. And this probably happened when we were just moving things around to make the crate look kind of beat up. Happened. See, there's a little problem right there. It's right in this area still. And it's right there is a little bit too high. See how if I move this down to match our plane here. We want this to be pretty flat right through here. And that took care of our problem. You can see there, just looking through, there's some problems over here on the other side. See those guys right there. So we're going to need to maneuver around in there. Remember when you're rotating, if you select something and hit this rotate with the yellow inside, it will behave much better. This guy's just going to have to pinch in there. And have some problems over here too. Alright, let's see if that fixed it. Almost. What I'm doing now is sometimes these angles can get a little bit too harsh for the smoothing groups to deal with. And so I'm just moving a few things over, give it a little bit better angle. You can still see it's still messed up right in there. And right now I'm having trouble figuring out the problem. That's okay. That's okay. Let's try this. Just going to move this up a little bit. So it's right in there is our problem. I'm going to make sure this isn't just a smoothing group number issue. Okay, and this is smoothing group 5. I'm going to put smoothing group 30 on there just to see if that's the problem. No, that's not the problem, so 5 can go back on. Okay. And we'll make sure we're not bleeding over into any of these other smoothing groups. So what I'm doing now is grabbing these smoothing groups along here just to make sure that they weren't accidentally double named. I don't see a problem there. No, looks alright. Okay. Well, I don't see any problem in there right now. So, I think we're going to leave that guy for a second. And the other side's fine. So we're just going to leave that guy for a second. We'll come back to him when we get the textures. I don't want to waste any more time on it. Okay, so now we have our smoothing groups on. And I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to apply a box, a UVW map box type on it. That's just to get some coordinates on it and then collapse it. And now we're going to start texturing this guy, or at least getting the UV mapping correct. For that, I'm going to apply an unwrap UVW to that. And we do need to get this thing set up properly. So I'm going to go to Face and highlight that. Go under Edit and say Display Filtered Faces. And go down here under Options and hit Tile Bitmap so that I can turn all that other stuff off. Now, I'm going to scroll this guy down a little bit, and I'm going to minimize this because I need the space over here, and scoot my crate over here so we can have some room to work. Okay, now everything that I select, you'll see me going back here to the Select key back here when I select the faces that I want. Now we can do this a number of different ways. We could come up here and say normal mapping, box mapping. Oh, here, let's select everything. So we could select everything in our box. There we go. And do that. So box mapping. And you'll see that it'll give me all these little parts. It's not bad. Not a bad way to start. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the big pieces myself, because I really don't want them doubled up like this, and I don't want to have to pick them all apart. But if you're used to using mapping, normal mapping, or you like the way that that works, go ahead and do it that way. This is a pretty simple object, so I think what I'm going to do is just come in here and grab these pieces, say break, and then I'm just going to move each piece off to the side as I do it. And I'm just going to work my way around. And really I'm just thinking in terms of how do I want to texture this and what pieces do I want separate on my map. Now because I did this as box mapping before, everything is pretty much mapped all right. I just need to separate it and use break and just kind of move them off to the side for the time being. There we go. I got a different piece in there by accident. There we go. And we'll do break. Move this guy over. And we'll do this piece and we'll have the outside all done. This is actually the old way to do it, but I still find this the most useful way for anything that's a really simple object. But like I said, if you want to use the normal mapping for that, you can. Okay, so the big pieces there are done. Now I just need to do the big pieces in the center or the inside. No big deal with these guys. You don't have to hit break after a while because they're all going to be separate anyways. Now see, the inside pieces I'm going to move up here. The outside pieces were over on this side. And that's just so that I can keep them organized and I know what goes where, because they're going to look really similar. And this guy's going to go up here as well. There we go. And if you're getting confused on which pieces you've already done, if they're showing up in the center here, you haven't really mapped them or UV'd them yet, because they would go up here and show up. All right, and oops. And if you had any little strange polygons popping up out of order, you would know you selected something you didn't want to select. So these guys are going to go up here. Now we've done the main pieces inside. I'm going to do the boards, the top and the bottom of those, because I want to map those separate. Now in this case I can actually do them all at once because they are separated here right down the middle. You can see it there. So I'll go to break, and I'm going to move the boards over here. And we'll go and flip this over, and we'll do the bottom the same way. And that'll cover most of my major faces. You guys will go over here. And now I've really just got all those chamfered seams to go in and to get. There's a couple ways you can do that. Some of these are already mapped pretty well. For instance, if I go in here and grab this top piece, which is right here, and I could probably get a hold of it easier over in this viewport. I'm going to minimize that for a second. And if I want to get a hold of that top chamfered piece, the easy way to do it is just grab all of these and then deselect everything underneath. And see, now I have just those top polygons, except that I need to turn off ignore back facing for this to work right. There we go. I always forget that button's there. And now I just have that top edge. That was ignore back facing. So if I go back into, see, just the top edge. If I go back over here, this was already mapped pretty well when I box mapped it using either normal mapping, or I had box modeled it, mapped it using regular vertex mapping beforehand. So this guy's pretty well done, and I think I'm just going to set him down here in the corner. And again, we'll go back over here. We want to get a hold of all those faces down in the bottom of our object. So what I'm going to do is select all the way through, and then I just go back in and I deselect right through the faces I know I don't want. And see, it's a lot easier to get a hold of them. Just make sure ignore back facing is turned off. Otherwise you're not going to get all the pieces that you want. And now those can be modeled or mapped straight on, basically. So, for instance, I can map those with normal mapping. And what are we calling this? Is it left, right? No, it's front, back. Front back. I just talked myself out of it. It's left right. why am I confusing myself? I'm totally confused now. So this is, let's just do box mapping. Okay. What I want are these big pieces here is what I'm trying to get. And I have talked myself out of it being back front. It's back front. Okay, I thought it was back front. Okay, and you'll see that these are all doubled up now, which isn't really what we want. But we can go down here and just select one piece and expand that out and just move it. And see what that's going to give us is each separate piece. Let's double check this and make sure that's right. Yeah. So now I have 4 pieces, and that was this button here. That just expands out the selection, so if I click on one polygon, it'll just expand out the selection for that one polygon. I'm going to put these down here. So we've done the top piece, we've done these bottom pieces. We need the sides of the boards at the very bottom. And so what I'm going to do, make sure I don't remap the ones I just did. I'm going to grab all the boards at the bottom. I'm going to grab right through there so that I don't get the top and the bottom. And then I don't need these here in the center. We know that because we just mapped them. And so now I should have just the outside pieces. Here, let's expand that. Just the outside pieces are there, which is what we want. And so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to deselect these pieces over here because I'm going to do those separate in a second. Oh, actually, you know what? We'll do those all together and we'll just use box mapping. So box mapping, you can see, already has done this for me, except it looks like I missed one originally. I think I've got the correct pieces there. And let me zoom in here. I may not have the chamfered sections. Yeah. I don't have the chamfered sections, and I want those as part of this. So I'm going back in here and selecting these chamfered sections. See these pieces right here, what I'm after. By the way, if these lines here are too thick for you, you can change them here if you want. Oops. Okay. Okay, and I want to make sure that I've got all those pieces there. I've got a few extra here I don't need, like that one. He was already mapped. This one was already mapped. This one got deselected. And I accidentally selected these little pieces in here, which were already mapped. Holding down Alt to deselect those. 2 more. Oh, 1 more. There we go. Okay, and that gives me all the way around that little chamfered bottom piece there. So what I'm going to do now is go under Mapping, Normal Mapping, and I'm going to use Box Mapping for this. And you'll see that that'll give me some pretty straight little pieces. It's pretty easy to figure out what's what here. These pieces right here, whoops, which need to be selected all the way through. These pieces right here are the ends of my boards on the bottom. These pieces right here are the chamfered edges that go all the way across, so we'll grab those. Well, we'll leave them for a second. And then these pieces here, if you're not sure what they are, you can always select them and go find them. And these pieces right here, I'm not sure what those are. They look like they might be the very bottom pieces over here, is what I'm guessing they are. Yeah, and I'll tell you how I know that. Is because I selected this and this piece here turned blue. That means it lines up to it. And so what I'm going to do is just move these over here. These two pieces go with these. There we go. Move them up. Move them up. And this piece here goes there. This piece here goes in the center. This will be a good time to seam these guys up. Even though they're really small, we want them to match. So each one of these guys can be rotated, I think, this direction. Let's double check. So let's grab an edge here. Let's zoom in here and see which one we got. I'm on edge mode now. Okay, so that's correct. So this one is going to line up right there. This one's going to line up right there. We've also missed one in here. Oh, that one already got included. And these guys here, they're all going to be rotated 90 degrees. And they're just going to go right up to their little corresponding piece. Of course, they don't have to be dead on. So I'm not going to weld the edges or anything. Okay, and if you really wanted to get those guys really close, obviously you could go in, you could grab the seams like these. You could grab, say, these guys here and go to Tools, Weld Selected, and it's just gluing those right in place. And a few more, just so they're done nice and neat. And that will get us plenty good enough for what we need there. Okay, let's zoom out and we'll neaten these guys up. So all of these pieces, go to Polygon. I'm just going to put these down here. We'll grab all of those guys and move them down here. And we'll grab all of these guys and move them down there. Okay, so now we've done these pieces. I think our board should be complete down below. The only thing we should have left to do is the handles here. These pieces in here, they're fairly easy. Whoops, don't need to close that. I can minimize that. And again, I'm going to go back over here, make sure select back face is turned off. I'm going to grab everything that I know is in the area of the handle and then just deselect out the areas that I don't need. Like so. And now I just have handles selected. So we'll go back over here, see what we have. That's with box modeling. Let me see if my normal mapping box modeling gets me anything better. I really don't like that a whole lot better. Let's see what other options I've got. Top isn't going to be bad. I could do top, bottom. I'm thinking. left, right. Left, right gives me, this is going straight on to them. And I think what I'm going to do is the top. So I'm going to do top bottom. That's going to give me these straight down versions of them. So I've got a bottom and a top. And I think this is going to give me my best bet at getting these lined up. So I'm going to put these down here. The only problem is if we zoom in here, let me maximize this. If we zoom in, with top bottom, what's going to get stretched are going to be these sides right here. Now, it's not hard to fix that. If I go over here, all I need to do is go into my vertices, and I just need to grab these end vertices here, holding down Control. Just those end vertices, and I'm just going to stretch them up. That's going to give me more room in here for them. You can see they seam in over on this side. So just those end 4 vertices will move these down. That looks pretty good. Some of these guys I'm going to straighten out a little bit more. And that will give us 2 strips to deal with our handles. There we go. So that's not bad. Those are going to be my handles. They can go down here. And now we should have everything mapped. And the way we find out if we have everything mapped is, I closed it again. Go to Edit. Go back over here. I right click by accident. And I'm going to zoom out. Make sure. Ignore back facing is off. Go to Faces. So there's all my faces. If I click this button, it's going to zoom out. Now I do have a few new little guys right in here. Not sure what those are. Those look like they are, the very edges right there. Huh. It looks like it's the edges right here. I thought I had selected those already. Yeah, it's a few extra edges on the top that didn't get mapped. They belong right here with this piece, and I just missed them. Okay, let's get them back in place. That's easy enough. Holding down Alt, I'm deselecting everything except for that top trim piece, which I think I have them all now. I missed them before. And I'm just going to map that from the top. Now I want top bottom. There we go. And now they're all mapped. Shrink them down a little bit. And we'll just move them over here. Okay, they're all mapped now. So if I grab all the polygons in my box and I go to Edit, and I still got 2 left over here, don't I? What are these little guys? Still got 2 left. Oh, they're the bottom pieces down here. They go with the boards. You can see they butt right up against these edges here. So what I'm going to do is just place them there for now and leave them. And that's all the pieces that I need. Now all I got to do is arrange them here in the middle. So let me get this guy neatened up. Okay, we're going to lay out our UVs now for this box. Just make sure the box is selected. Go back to your unwrap UVW and go back to the edit window. Now we've got to get all these lined up so that they fit, basically. And we want to make sure that everything is the same size. And so what I'm doing now, because I know this one was sized wrong, it was the last one I did, I'm just lining it up to the top of these crates because I want everything to be basically as if it all fits together and is the same size. You can see these pieces here I'm grabbing. I'm going to hit this little plus here to expand them out. And those are matching up to the sides of the board. You can see they're way too big. So we're going to shrink them down until they're close to the same size. That's probably pretty good. These pieces here, which I'm looking for the blue, this is the inside of the handles. And you can see they're way too big. So we're going to shrink them down as well until they're about the right size. That's probably pretty close considering they're wrapped around there. Now everything else looks to be about the right size. You can see the boards here are going to be the same as the bottom. So everything's the same size. Okay, and now I'm going to go and start dragging these in. I don't try to pick all the pieces, so I don't hold down Control and pick all the pieces because that would be too hard. I just hit the plus button. So this is a side. I'm going to line it up right here. This is another side. I'm going to line it up right here. I'm going to get them pretty close together. We'll talk about that in a second. Here's another side. Put it right here. This is an inside or an outside. This guy's going to go here. There we go. And we've got these pieces. I think I'm going to maybe rotate these around and see if they'll fit. I think I can get them to fit right in here eventually. What I'm doing is trying to maximize the space that I have here. And get these as close together as possible. So there's no right or wrong way to lay them out. Oops. But you want to make sure that everything is maximized. Also, lining them up in the same direction where possible will make it a lot easier in Photoshop because we can then clone the objects and have them line up easily. That looks about right there. Okay, these pieces here will stick here for the time being. These guys here I think can fit right here. I'm not worried about the overlapping parts quite yet. I'm going to deal with those. I'm just getting them close. This guy here, I'm going to take these two edges and just break them off and line them up over here. And these two edges, I think we will, let's see, where can we put them? I think eventually we'll be able to put them right along this side. Okay, so now I've gotten close to maximizing my space. Now I'm going to move down here. We don't want a lot of space left in between these because we're giving away resolution if we do that. And we can size things up a little bit. We can size them down a little bit to fit our needs. I'm kind of looking at the plan here, just getting an idea of what I want to do. I'm going to move this one down a little bit closer. Just kind of moving some things around here to save some space. That's going to go up there. I think this guy can come down here. And I'm just leaving enough space in between so I can see it in Photoshop. Oops. Just enough so when we get into Photoshop we can see the difference. Okay, I'm looking around here to see what I want to do next. I think these guys here can be pushed over here a little bit more. Guys can go there. And I kind of try to think in terms of blocks. That's what I'm doing now, is trying to get these kind of blocked in. So I end up with kind of straight lines, nice neat little structures that, again, are easy to deal with in Photoshop. That's kind of a nice neat little thing there. Okay, looking over here, this guy can come up. We don't want to go over the blue line here, obviously. That's our boundary, or else it'll tile into itself. There we go. That's going to free up these guys down here. These guys can move over a little bit. I think all of this stuff here, these guys, go over a little bit. Oops. These guys can go over. There we go. You can see these are a little bit too long, and I want them in this spot. Expand those out a little bit. I want them in this spot, so what I'm going to do is fit them in as best as possible, and then use my scale tool to just scale them in a little bit. Just a tiny bit so they'll still fit. That'll work. And eventually, what I'm trying to do is kind of squish everything up into this corner, and you'll see why here in a second, as soon as I get everything happily lined up. Okay, these guys can go up a little bit. Every little pixel you save means you're getting resolution back, and we like that. But don't make it extra hard on yourself either. It's kind of a waste. Okay. Let's see, we could take these guys and put them over here. That's looking to be an option. Or actually, why don't we do this? We'll move these guys up a little bit. There we go. I think we're going to move this. This is going to move over here. These guys, we got more room over here than we do over here right now. There we go. These are the smaller inside pieces, so they can come over here. There we go. Scoot these guys over a little bit. Okay. Pretty close. And now I got more room. I can push these guys up a little bit. And these guys can come down here. Hit that button. And they're going to fit right down along this bottom rail. There we go. So I've got everything pretty well fit in here. And I've got some big empty spots here that I would like to try and fill in with something, because then I can make everything a little bit bigger. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to fill much in here. I'd like to move these guys is what I would like to do. Let's try this real quick. I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to take each one of these and try and see if I can get at least one of them in here. That'll fit there. This guy will fit up here. kind of like a big game. There we go. He'll fit right there. And then this guy, I was hoping he'd fit right in there. If we scoot him around, no. I think our best bet is right there. So I've cleared out this area here. And these guys can go right up here. They'll fit. That clears this out. Take this guy and I'm going to move him right in here if I can make it fit. I want him right there. Okay, so those are lined up. And now what I can do is grab everything and scale it out just a little bit. So let's see, we'll get a little bit more resolution there. Let's get these guys over just a little bit. There we go. They need to be scaled down a tiny bit. Okay. Now, I got this room here. I don't really see any way I can really optimize it very well. I think we've pretty much got as much space packed in there as we can possibly get. A few of these could be optimized a little bit, so I'm going to just bulk them up a little bit just to get a little bit more resolution in there. Not a whole lot we can do. Whenever you have these angled lines like this, you don't want to stretch anything too much. In fact, I think I'll leave those guys. Better bet's up here. Grab these. Scale them out just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So that is pretty well optimized at this point. About as good as we're going to get. And now I'm going to close this down. I'm going to go over to my material editor real quick and my asset browser. And I'm going to go find a piece of wood texture from my texture CDs here. You do have some of these texture CDs that come with the class. Let's see, which one would be a good one? No. I want something with some angles on it, like this brick will work for the time being. And I'm just going to drag this over to my map slot. Just drag that over to under diffuse color. And then we'll just apply this guy. And what we're looking for is to make sure everything lines up straight. You can also use what's called a texture, or not a texture map, a checker map. There's a checker pattern here that comes with Max. You'll probably want to tile it, something like that. See, I could drag that over as well. And what I'm looking for is to make sure that all these checkers aren't, nothing stretched, that they're all nice and square. And you can see here they're going to look a little weird because we've got different chamfers there, but they should look nice and square. We can make them smaller. Probably a little smaller would help. Yeah, a little smaller than that. There you go. And now you can see that that's a pretty well textured box. So when our texture ends up going on it, which we've got simulated here by our brick pattern, And I can tile that brick pattern the same way so that it's a little bit smaller. Let's try 12 by, say, 12. There we go. And you can see that that's on there nice and flat, and that our wood texture should go on there pretty well. So that's our UVs are on there. Now we just have to make the texture. The first thing we've got to do is go back to our unwrap one more time here, and we want to render the UVW template. And what that's going to do, this little menu will come up. We're going to make ours 512 by 512. 1024 is probably a bit much for our little crate. And then we're just going to hit render the template. And what we're going to end up with is this guy. And that's what we're going to output by hitting this button here to someplace we can save. In my case, I'm going to save it here to my directory for the class. And we're going to call this box, well, no, we're calling it crate template. I'm going to save this just as a target, which is what I'm going to use for my texture. So we'll hit save. This is going to come up. I don't need 32-bit. If you want 32-bit, it'll save a mask of all these little lines here. So if that's what you want, you can do that. Yeah, I just want 24-bit. And now it's saved. We can close this down. And I'm going to minimize max. You could close max at that point. Make sure it's saved. And then back over to Photoshop. Now here's my box textures all ready to go. I'm going to open that texture I just made, which is called crate template. There we go. And I pretty much can strip pieces right out of the photograph that I already have. What I want to do first is I want to find a generic material to kind of lay down over this. I'm also going to invert the colors to start with. So I've got white. That's just a personal choice. I just like working on the white better. So you can see I've got some wood textures. These are all in my folder if there's any of these you'd like to use. I'm probably going to use this one because I think that's probably going to be closest to what I need. We'll minimize the rest of these guys and we'll use them as layers. Okay, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to plop it right over my template. And it needs to be scaled just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so you could see that if I wanted to, I could put this on multiply and I could see my template underneath it. Now, we may never see any of this particular coloring, and you can see it doesn't match the coloring of my crate exactly, so I'm going to adjust it using hue saturation, and I'm going to find the hue and kind of make it match a little better. My box has a little bit more red in it, right around there. Make it a little lighter. There we go. That's kind of close to these colors that we've got in here. If you don't get it dead on, you can always select the color that you want it to be. You can see like this color here. And I can make a new layer. I can fill that layer with that color and then go through my layer types here and see if there's something that'll match. See, that's getting closer. Now I can come down here and desaturate this a little bit just so that it's not working through. And you can see that's getting pretty close. So that's not too bad. That's pretty close to my original color. I'm going to close this now because I don't need it anymore. But that's pretty close. And I think what I'm going to do at this point is just merge this layer down and just going to adjust the color a little bit more. Knock the saturation down. I don't like working on it when it's too too saturated. Okay, so that's my generic texture. You can see it's going to match these boxes pretty well. Now at this point, I can go in and strip out a lot of these pieces. These pieces are bigger than my template here, so that's not bad. That means I can use them at least. And I'm just going to strip these out. There we go. We'll copy that guy. Paste him in here. He needs to be scaled down. Holding down Shift so that it locks into place. I like to line up one corner and then just line up the rest. And you can see that that works pretty well. We want to get it pretty close to dead on those lines. There we go. And if we go to Transform Distort, we can really get it right on those lines. There we go. That's pretty close. And I've got some others here. I think I've got the other side. Yeah, it's this one. You can see this one's going to need to be distorted, and that's fine. We can smash this stuff together. And I'm not going to do all the textures this way, just some of them, so I can kind of get a feel and match my texturing. You can see the lighting on this one's going to be different, and that's why I don't do it on all of them. Put it down here and just flip this guy. There he goes. Just right down there. We're going to go to Distort on this one. And this one I'm not going to worry too much about since the lighting's different. I'm going to clone in a few pieces on this guy. There we go. There we go. That one's going to need a little bit of fixing up because you can see the light's a little bit different. And now these inside pieces here, I can use the same pieces. So let's go down here. All I'm going to do is copy and drag this guy over, select it, and we'll just rotate that guy counterclockwise, and he should fit right in here. Don't worry about it needing to be a little bit bigger. You can see it's going to have to get a little bit bigger. And this guy, oops, he's in this layer. Copy, drag him over, rotate him clockwise. He's going to go right there. Okay, so those are starting to fall into place. I'll come back and deal with them in a little bit. I can do the planks here because we have pretty good pictures of the planks. So I'll just copy those and paste them. I'm going to go ahead and, using the square bracket keys, I'm just going to paint these out. I'm using my mouse right now. There we go. That's good enough. Put this over here. Needs to be scaled a little bit. And again, I'm not too worried about whether I go over the lines or not right now. And I think for these planks, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clone this down, like so. And then I'm going to come back in and change these in a little bit. You can see that I don't want each plank to be the same, but I'm just going to change them up, and I'll add my own water stains and so forth to them. These here, again, more planks. I'm going to use a different piece this time. something like this guy. Paste those in. And there we go. We'll use our eraser. I'm holding down Shift. That's what's making the straight line. And we'll just line this guy up and scale him. Squish him in there. And then this guy I'm just going to clone as well and not worry about the extra pieces right now. I'm going to come over here to my layers and I'm going to merge some of these down and just kind of get them into groups. So I have these pieces, and these pieces in separate groups. Let me look for that side piece is what I want. In this case, I'm going to grab the parts I've got because I want this metal strip thing along the edge, that piece there, and I'm just going to copy and paste in the parts at least that I have. I'm going to use just distort here. There we go. I'm just going to kind of stretch them into place. There we go. And I'm lining up this metal piece. There's like a metal trim piece on the edge. That's what I'm lining up. That's why it looks a little strange. Because that's the part I want to save. Why I'm using distort. That'll work. And I'm going to clone in the rest of this. But you can see that metal piece there is lined up to the edge. I'm going to take this same piece here and clone this down. Let's see, onto the other side, I think. That's good. And on the inside here, I think I'm going to grab this piece. There we go. And we'll transform that, scale it down. I think we'll just go right to distort on this guy. And again, I'm lining this little metal strip right up with the sides. Because the wood I can make. The wood's not hard to make. That little metal strip would be hard to duplicate. And I'm not sure I have any reference material like that. So we're just going to use what's in the original photograph. So now we've started to get pieces on here. For these strips of wood, I'm just going to grab some existing material from my photograph. And we'll just maneuver that into shape. It's going to go right over here on top of these pieces of wood. Like so. And we can do the same thing with this. We'll just grab a good chunk of that, paste it over here. I could rely just on my generic material, but I don't think it's quite close enough to rely on. And there we go. we go. And one more. Probably right down here looks good. Okay, so we've got material on most of our pieces here. Now it still is going to need some touch-up. I'm going to quickly go zoom in here, and I'm going to merge all of these down into groups again. Merge down, merge down. You can see those big giant groups there. I'm going to be working in this layer right here just to clone in some spots. And I'm just going to clone in this area right here for the time being. Now the texture is not going to be completely done by copying from the photographs. We're basically using this as a template. And we're covering with photograph material because we know that would work. The problem is my photograph is very grainy, as you can see here. And I don't want a grainy texture. So we're going to eventually come back into this and make it look a lot better. But we want something to see what this is going to look like on the box. There we go. Quick cloning up here. That's also why we used the same photograph, because it's not going to matter in the long run, since we're going to be cloning everything anyways. And we don't need these holes here because in our model, those are modeled detail, not textured detail. There we go. Like I said, we're not going to leave all this quite this messy once we're all done. Just filling it in so we can see what it's going to look like. Okay. So you can see most of the detail is covered up now. We're looking to cover up those purple lines. A little bit up here could be fixed. Because that will mean everything will have at least texture on it. Okay, and now we're going to save this both as a Photoshop file. So in textures, oops, let's go back up here. This is going to be cranked texture, PST, and we'll flatten all this, or we'll just save a copy. So we'll save it as a copy. Targa, and this one's going to be Quick Text 24-bit. Okay, and now let's go see what it looks like in Max. We can just use our little brick material. Well, let's make a new material, I guess, since the brick was tiled. We'll go to bitmap, and then we've got to go find it. This one. There we go. Pop it on there. See what it looks like. So here's our crate as it is now. You'll see most of that stuff looks pretty good. See what it looks like rendered. It's not a bad texture as we have on there right now, and that was really thrown together. I'm sure there's some problems, but it really doesn't look too bad. You can see there's some purple there that's going to have to be fixed. It really doesn't look too bad. Problems there. Not too bad though. Okay, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to go back in and fix up this texture, and then I'll apply it, and we'll talk about what I did to fix it up.